True crime, 2026, turn the lights down low, let the darkness mix. Midnight whispers on an old back road. Every secret's got a story untold. Cold case files and a smoking gun. Truth runs deep where the shadows run. Footsteps echo in an empty hall. Somebody's watching from behind the wall. Red string tied to a photograph. Broken clocks in a shattered past. Every clue's just one more fix. Welcome to 2026. DJ's True Crime 2026. Twisted tales and dangerous tricks. Every lie's got a heavy price. Roll the tape, let's roll the dice. Heartbeat racing, ticking ticks. Truth cuts deep like sharpened sticks. If you're brave, come take your fix. DJ's True Crime 2026. Headlines screaming in black and white. City sirens in the dead of night. Coffee cold on a cluttered desk. One more name on the suspect list. Footprints fade in the falling rain. Every witness recalls the same. A fleeting face, a shadowed mix. Another mystery in 26. Maps on the wall with pins stuck in. Where do we start and where's it end? Truth don't sleep and neither do I. Chasing ghosts that never die. DJ's True Crime 2026. Secrets buried in the politics. Truth is sharper than it looks. Hidden deep between the books. Turn it up, let the story stick. Every twist hits hard and quick. Stay tuned for the final fix. DJ's True Crime 2026. In the midnight city where the neon lights glow. DJs on the mic and the whole world knows. From the streets to the sky where the blue flames fly. We ride together strong, never asking why. Hear the beat of the drums like a dragon's roar. Every step we take makes the crowd want more. Through the fire in the night, we stand as one. When the music hits hard, that's when we run. We are DJs, Blue Dragon Squad. Rising through the night, breathing blue fire, burning bright in the light. Hear the crowd scream loud when the bass drops hard. Stand up, stand proud for the Blue Dragon Squad. And the sound where the legends grow. Every beat we drop makes the whole place glow. From the underground vibes to the main stage flame. Blue dragons flying high in the game. Hear the thunder roll when the speakers pound. Feel the energy shaking the ground. Every soul in the room feels the spark ignite. Blue dragons rising in the night. We are DJs, Blue Dragon Squad. Rising through the night, breathing blue fire, burning bright in the light. Hear the crowd scream loud when the bass drops hard. Stand up, stand proud for the Blue Dragon Squad. Dragon Squad. No fear, no change, just the rhythm we ride. Blue flames in our hearts, got the squad by our side. When the night falls down and the music's loud, you'll hear the roar of the dragon crowd. We are DJs, Blue Dragon Squad. Hear the legend call. Blue fire rising as the shadows fall. Hands in the air while the beat hits hard. Forever we ride. Blue Dragon Squad.
Sweet boy Sebastian, where are you? The stars stayed up all night waiting too. The next morning your mama came up. You weren't there, your room was empty. Sweet boy Sebastian, where'd you go? Room was still left the same as it was. The whole world has been searching, but there was no evidence of where you went. The wind whistles softly in the night and morning. It hums your name and hums the song of I am the tiger. It's so quiet without your laughter and smile. Life gets harder and harder every day. Sweet boy Sebastian, where have you gone? Everyone has searched through forests and water and near your house with no sighting or sin. If you're hiding, come out and come back. Sebastian, your dad is worried, and so is the whole wide world. Sebastian, where are you? Please show us signs wherever you may be. We are your army, sweet boy Sebastian, so please come home. So please.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me, or a thumbs up. I'm going to have my camera off for today. So, Jacob, I'm going to let you up. Here you go, Jacob. Jacob, come on up. I'm just waiting for my friend to come up, you guys. Hang on. I'm going to try video calling him quickly to see what's going on. There you go. Jeez, Jacob, it took you a long time. It took you a long time. Now, let's share screen. We're going to watch Breaking. She knew Chris Proudfoot's crime but chose to hide it. Sebastian Rogers. Okay, so I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Okay. There we go. And also, for those that are watching from in the bushes, please click that thumbs up and Subscribe if you haven't, and also get my channel out into the algorithm and share my channel, please. Here we go.
From the first week, her statements show a pattern consistent with someone attempting to support an existing narrative, rather than recounting an event she personally. In the first 6 days after Sebastian Rogers disappeared, Katie Proudfoot slipped at least 3 times describing her son in the past tense, adjusting her timeline to match Chris's version, and uttering a sentence she could not possibly know. I don't know why he walked out that door. Yet forensic evidence shows no footprints, no scent trail, no missing shoes, and a door.
In my opinion, Sebastian did not walk out that door. So, KK and CP, tell the truth.
Door that was found locked. How could Katie know an action that left no physical trace? And why do all the impossible details align with the interests of one person, and one person only, Chris Proudfoot? The central theory in this case begins with a simple, but uncomfortable premise. Katie Proudfoot may not be the person who created the event that led to Sebastian's disappearance, but she may be the person who is actively concealing what truly happened inside the home. From the first week, her statements show a pattern consistent with someone attempting to support an existing narrative, rather than recounting an event she personally witnessed or understood. In parallel, Chris Proudfoot emerges not just as a participant in interviews, but as the architect of the story the public is meant to hear. When these 2 layers are examined together, they form a dual narrative model, often seen in domestic internal event cases. One partner constructs the logic, the other reinforces the emotional facade. Katie's narrative is soft, effective, and carefully smoothed. She describes a normal night, a calm evening, a good day, and insists that there was no conflict of any kind. Her language repeatedly avoids friction,
Yeah, those are her words. In my opinion, she's lying about everything. She knows what happened.
Or any suggestion of discipline. This emotional coding functions as what investigators call narrative padding language, designed to remove all sharp edges from the hours preceding a critical event. In contrast, Chris's narrative is hard-edged and structured. He provides exact timestamps, absolute statements, and firm boundaries, including a precise disappearance window of 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., despite the fact that he was not physically present in the home during that period. Where Katie speaks in generalities, Chris speaks in certainties. Where Katie avoids specifics, Chris imposes them. Together they create a 2-layered script. One layer disarms the emotional audience, the other controls the investigative frame. Behaviorally, Katie shows dependency on Chris throughout multiple interviews. She turns toward him before answering, pauses when he moves or interjects, and corrects herself mid-sentence when her phrasing diverges from the preferred narrative. These corrections are not random, they occur at precisely the points where a truthful recall would contradict Chris's imposed structure. The clearest example is her shift from "when he went to bed" to "when I told him to go to bed." A person simply remembering an evening does not spontaneously revise a harmless sentence. A person aligning with a partner's predetermined story does. The same avoidance emerges when she is asked about punishment, arguments, or CPS involvement. Rather than denying them, she circumvents the question altogether, repeating only the emotional shell. It was a normal night. The most revealing moment, however, is Katie's slip of the tongue. I don't know why he walked out that door. This statement contains information she should not possess.
Oh, stop the crap. KK, you know what happened. So just tell the truth and bring him to his dad's house. And just, in my opinion, face your time in jail.
There is no physical evidence, no footprints, no scent trail, no missing shoes, no camera footage, no door noise, no disturbed ground indicating that Sebastian walked out of the house at all. A parent who does not know what happened says, "I don't know where he is." A parent who is covering for an internal event says, "I don't know why he left," presupposing an action the evidence does not support. Her choice of words reveals privileged knowledge of a scenario that never manifested in the forensic record. Chris, meanwhile, exerts strict control over the shared narrative. He interrupts Katie regularly, finishes her answers, and reframes questions before she can respond. He also introduces crucial details she never mentions, most notably the 3-hour phone call on the night Sebastian disappeared. Katie forgot this call entirely until Chris inserted it. A genuine timeline is remembered by the person who lived it. A manufactured timeline must be reinforced by the person who built it. Chris positions himself as the clarifier, the corrector. The gatekeeper of accuracy functions typically associated with a narrative manager, rather than a witness recounting personal experience. The forensic hypothesis that emerges from these behavioral patterns is as follows. A significant event occurred inside the home during the night. Chris handled the immediate aftermath. Katie, upon discovering the situation, adopted the narrative structure Chris provided. In doing so, she attempted to stabilize the timeline and emotional framing, but because she was not the originator of the story, her statements contain inconsistencies, presuppositions, and temporal distortions. Her slips are the predictable result of a secondary narrator trying to maintain a version of events with insufficient cognitive control over
In my opinion, and allegedly, this whole thing was scripted and planned out. Just saying.
its internal logic. This theory does not claim motive, method, or culpability without evidence. It identifies a behavioral dynamic Chris constructs, Katie confirms. Chris dictates, Katie aligns. Chris controls the logic, Katie maintains the emotional tone. And in every version of their story, the observable facts of the case: no scent, no tracks, no shoes, no camera hits, locked doors, inconsistent timelines, bend not toward what is physically plausible, but toward what is narratively convenient. Forensic analysis begins not with accusations, but with contradictions. In this case, the most pronounced contradictions appear not in the physical evidence, but in the words, corrections, omissions, and interactions of the two adults who last had access to Sebastian. The theory that Katie may be covering for Chris is not built on speculation. It is built on the pattern that emerges when their statements are examined side by side: two narratives, one origin, and a sequence of slips that point inward, not outward. From the earliest interviews, Chris Proudfoot emerges not merely as a participant in the search for Sebastian, but as the primary architect of the narrative surrounding the disappearance. His behavioral pattern is consistent across every recorded interaction. He dominates the conversation, redirects the framing of events, corrects Katie's statements, and asserts control over the interpretive structure of the case.
Yeah, the reason why CP corrects everything that she tries to explain is because he doesn't want her slipping out what's actually true. CP, you're a joke in my opinion.
This dynamic becomes especially significant when measured against the forensic reality that Katie, not Chris, was the last adult to see Sebastian alive. Yet Chris speaks as if he alone possesses the authoritative version of events, while Katie consistently defers, retracts, and adapts to his lead. Across 5 separate interviews, Chris speaks for the majority of the time, often over 80% of the total content, even when questions are directed specifically toward Katie, or relate to details she alone would know. This consistent pattern is not characteristic of a supportive partner, it is characteristic of a narrative gatekeeper. When Katie attempts to answer independently, Chris interjects, completes her sentences, or reframes the question. The result is a public record shaped far more by his voice than by hers. In forensic interviewing, this level of intervention is a red flag. The person assuming narrative ownership often has the strongest incentive to control the flow of information. Another striking indicator is Chris's access to and repetition of law enforcement level terminology and procedural details. In multiple interviews, he discusses FBI positioning, CART evaluations, interagency coordination, and being vetted, as though he has insight into investigative processes that ordinary parents are not privy to. The problem is simple: none of these claims are corroborated by TBI, FBI, or
I never knew
Hendersonville
that.
police. At no point does law enforcement confirm that Chris or Katie were cleared, vetted, or ruled out. Their official position remains open-ended. Everything is still on the table. When a subject invokes institutional clearance without confirmation, it signals self-clearing behavior, a documented psychological pattern in which a person attempts to preempt suspicion by falsely asserting investigative approval. Chris also adopts a curious linguistic distance from those closest to him. He refers to Katie not as his wife, not as Katie, but as the mom. He refers to Sebastian not as my stepson, not as Sebastian, but as the young man. This kind of nominal distancing is not accidental. It is a phenomenon recognized in forensic linguistics as an attempt to remove emotional obligation or ownership. Perpetrators in internal child harm cases frequently use distancing language when discussing victims or household members, especially when the relationship is strained, contested, or transactional. Where a typical stepfather in crisis would speak with warmth or relational closeness,
He ain't no stepfather. He's a freaking joke. That wasn't meant to be a stepfather. And KK, in my opinion. KK, well, she shouldn't have become a mother because apparently she's not so good at it, in my opinion. And allegedly.
Chris speaks with administrative detachment. Accuracy is another domain where Chris's behavior raises flags. His timeline descriptions are exceptionally precise down to the minute, describing, for example, a phone call from 9:43 p.m. to nearly midnight. Such precision would normally suggest reliability, but in this context, it does the opposite. Hyper-precision without corroborating evidence often signals narrative fabrication, especially when the other witness, Katie, cannot confirm or even recall the same details. Indeed, Katie completely forgot the alleged 3-hour call until Chris inserted it into his version of events. A genuine timeline arises from shared memory. A manufactured timeline requires reinforcement by the person who constructed it. Chris also positions himself as the gatekeeper of what counts as evidence. He dismisses the flashlight video as irrelevant, despite not having access to the raw footage. He asserts that there were no noises whatsoever that night, even though Katie previously referenced an unusual sound. He rejects every alternative scenario except runaway, a theory contradicted by physical evidence, behavioral norms, and law.
Yeah, same with me. I don't even think they were on the phone. In my opinion, I think CP was at home with KK.
Law enforcement analysis. This intentional narrowing of possibilities to a single narrative, the one that absolves him, aligns with the behavior of an individual controlling a storyline for personal protection. Beyond verbal behavior, external vectors raise additional concern. The CPS allegations against Chris, while alleged and unverified, include reports of using a belt on Sebastian, disciplinary escalation, and incidents involving prior partners and their children. Again, these cannot be treated as confirmed facts, but they cannot be dismissed outright either, because they align with a well-documented forensic risk pattern. Stepparents, statistically, are disproportionately implicated in internal child harm environments, especially when the child has a disability that affects communication or independence. Autistic children, in particular, face elevated risk because they may struggle to report mistreatment, resist coercive dynamics, or remove themselves from unsafe conditions. This risk vector becomes even more concerning when combined with known behavioral indicators, dominating interviews, controlling narrative framing, over precision in timelines, distancing language, and uncorroborated claims of investigative clearance. In forensic psychology, it is the constellation of these behaviors that matters. No single behavior is definitive, but together they form a pattern strongly suggestive of control, manipulation, and a desire to manage public perception. Ultimately, Chris's behavior does not resemble that of a stepfather desperate to find a missing child. It resembles that of a man determined to control the narrative around the disappearance. He positions himself as the authoritative voice, invalidates contradictory information, shields.
In my opinion, that's because he didn't want to be a stepfather. Why else would he want KK to get rid of Sebastian, in my opinion.
Himself with procedural terminology and distances himself emotionally from both Katie and Sebastian. In cases of internal events, these are not random tendencies, they are red flags. And when placed alongside the physical evidence that contradicts a voluntary disappearance, the behavioral profile of Chris Proudfoot becomes a central, unavoidable point of investigation. Katie Proudfoot's role in this case is not defined by active creation of a false narrative, but by the quieter, more revealing pattern of legitimizing one. Her statements do not display the assertiveness or control seen in Chris's interviews. Instead, they show hesitation, correction, avoidance, and emotional dependency. These patterns align with an individual who is not inventing a story from scratch, but attempting to maintain and repeat a narrative constructed by someone else. In forensic analysis, this secondary narrator position is often more informative than the primary one, because it reveals the pressure points, the moments where the imposed narrative and the speaker's cognitive limitations collide. One of the clearest indicators of Katie's role as a narrative follower is her consistent avoidance of direct, incriminating questions. When asked whether Sebastian was punished that night, she does not deny it. She simply avoids the question entirely. She substitutes a generic descriptor. It was a normal night. Repeated.
Again, in my opinion, the reason why why KK denied it is because she knows she's gonna get in trouble. That's how come she decided not to answer at all. In my opinion, she doesn't want to get caught. She doesn't want to go behind bars. Well, when you do things that you're not supposed to as an adult, you have to face consequences. So KK and CP just act like adults and tell the truth, or else it's just going to get worse, in my opinion, and allegedly.
Multiple times across interviews. When asked whether there was any conflict, her answer is identical. It was a calm night. These repeated deflections are not accidental. They serve a specific function in narrative maintenance. They eliminate the possibility of a precipitating event without committing to a concrete, falsifiable claim. A truthful witness addresses questions. A coached witness avoids them. Her tendency to correct herself mid-sentence is another major red flag. In one interview, she first says, "He went to bed," then abruptly revises it to, I told him to go to bed." That shift is not a trivial adjustment. It signals the presence of an internal narrative framework, almost certainly one constructed by Chris, that she is trying to remember and adhere to. True memory is fluid and consistent. Learned narrative, especially one learned under emotional pressure, produces exactly this kind of on-the-spot self-correction. These corrections are not about accuracy. They are about conformity to a script. Katie's slips extend beyond structural details into linguistic signals of emotional foreknowledge. In one of the most critical examples, she uses past tense framing when discussing Sebastian's birthday. He would have turned 16, combined with, "He should be home for that." Her phrasing implies anticipatory grief, a psychological state seen in family members who internally accept a loss they cannot publicly acknowledge. This kind of tense drift does not appear in parents who believe their child is simply missing. It appears in those who subconsciously process an outcome they are not ready to verbalize. Perhaps the most concerning slip is her declarative statement, "I don't know why he walked out that door." This line presupposes an action for which there is.
Again, allegedly, in my opinion, he did not walk out that door. He got carried out the door. That's how come the dogs did not pick up a scent. They only picked up, I think, 1 scent, which was not Sebastian's, allegedly.
Zero forensic support. There are no footprints, no scent trail, no missing shoes, no camera footage, no audio cues suggesting the door opened, and no witness accounts. A parent working from genuine ignorance would say, "I don't know where he is," or "I don't know what happened." Only someone who believes, or has been told, that Sebastian walked out the door would phrase it as, "I don't know why he walked out." This is not a spontaneous assumption. It is a narrative insert, and because it contradicts the physical evidence, it cannot originate from observation. It must originate from instruction. Katie's emotional and behavioral dependence on Chris further strengthens the interpretation that she is a secondary narrator, not a primary one. In every interview, she looks toward Chris before answering. Her cadence changes when he moves or reacts. She falls silent when he interjects, even when the question was directed at her. This dynamic reflects a well-documented pattern in coercive or unequal relationships. The subordinate partner defers to the dominant partner's interpretation of events, especially under stress or public scrutiny. Whether this dynamic is rooted in fear, emotional dependency, or long-term conditioning is not necessary to determine the forensic implications. What matters is that Katie's recall does not function independently. It functions under supervision. This dynamic also explains her unwillingness to challenge or contradict any of Chris's statements, even when they conflict with her own earlier descriptions. When Chris declares that there were no noises whatsoever that night, Katie does not correct him or reference the sounds she herself previously mentioned. When Chris asserts that the flashlight video is irrelevant, she does not acknowledge her earlier uncertainty about it. Her silence in these moments is not.
In my opinion, the flashlight video should be irrelevant. Everything in the case should be irrelevant. But no, according to CP and KP, it's just a whole big game to them. When it's not.
Neutral. It is participatory. She accepts his corrections because her role is not to recall truth, it is to preserve the integrity of the narrative he constructs. These behaviors align with the psychological profile of a dependent partner in an abusive or controlling dynamic. Victims in such relationships frequently do the following: legitimize the partner's actions, even when they conflict with reality. Minimize or omit events that may cast the partner in a negative light. Adopt the partner's language and framing in describing incidents. Avoid direct answers about conflict or harm. Correct themselves to remain aligned with the dominant partner's expectations. This is not speculation. It is a recognized behavioral pattern in forensic interviews involving family dynamics, where one partner holds disproportionate control. The outcome is a narrative that feels inconsistent, patchy, and unstable, not because Katie is lying intentionally, but because she is trying to maintain a structure she did not create and does not fully understand. She is tasked with repeating details she cannot anchor to real memory. This is why her story shifts, why her tense slips, and why her answers fail to address the core questions. A narrative built from memory remains stable. A narrative built from instruction fractures under scrutiny. The forensic conclusion is therefore not that Katie invented a false account, but that she is not capable of sustaining the account Chris created. She fills the emotional gaps, softens the edges, and provides the appearance of maternal grief. But the logical skeleton of the story belongs to him, not her. Katie's role is reactive, not generative. Her narrative is an adaptation, not a construction. And the holes she cannot cover, the slips, the omissions, the contradictions reveal far more than the words she manages to say correctly. By the time viewers reach this stage of the investigation, the behavioral contradictions and narrative inconsistencies surrounding Katie and Chris have already begun to form a coherent pattern. But the most decisive blows to the runaway theory come not from psychology or linguistics, but from forensic reality. When examined systematically, the physical evidence dismantles every possible version of the claim that Sebastian voluntarily left the house. What emerges instead is a collection of 12 impossibilities, 12 conditions that cannot coexist with the idea of an autistic teenager quietly walking out into the night. Each element alone challenges the runaway hypothesis.
Which, in my opinion, even if he did go out on his own in the night, no kid should be out late at night like that. In my opinion, and allegedly, he did not go outside on his own. Someone had to have carried him out. There is no way he would have left on his own.
Together, they eliminate it entirely. The first impossibility is the complete absence of footprints. The environment surrounding the home was not concrete or asphalt, but a mix of soil, soft ground, and transition zones where even light steps typically leave impression patterns. Law enforcement logged thousands of search hours, yet no footprints attributed to Sebastian were located, not on the lawn, not on the embankments, not on the approach paths, not anywhere a barefoot teenager would have traveled. The lack of prints is not merely unlikely, it is incompatible with a barefoot exit. The second is the absence of a scent trail. KD-9 units trained to detect human scent followed multiple directions around the property and neighborhood. All attempts collapsed almost immediately. A living individual who leaves a residence, especially one without shoes, inevitably leaves a chemical signature detectable to tracking dogs. When dogs fail to produce even a partial trail, two conclusions are possible: the person did not travel by foot, or the person never left the house at all. In this case, both conclusions undermine the runaway scenario. Third, no shoes were missing from the home. This detail, seemingly small, is in fact critical. Sebastian was known to dislike walking barefoot, especially outside, and especially at night. For an autistic teenager with sensory sensitivities including aversion to dirt, insects, and uneven textures, voluntarily exiting a familiar, safe
That's because people with autism have sensory issues, and not only that, with Sebastian being bitten by fire ants when he was younger, that's how come he does not like being out barefoot. So he did get carried out, in my opinion, and allegedly. So there's one hint there.
environment without footwear is categorically inconsistent with established behavioral patterns. The absence of missing shoes is not a neutral data point. It contradicts the only method by which he could have left undetected. Fourth, there is no camera evidence capturing movement anywhere in the neighborhood. In the earliest days of the investigation, law enforcement canvassed nearby homes and businesses, collecting doorbell footage and security captures. Despite dozens of operational cameras within range, not one of them recorded a lone teen walking, running, or moving toward any road. In modern residential areas, the disappearance of a pedestrian without appearing on a single camera is statistically improbable. Combined with the other impossibilities, it becomes forensically untenable. Fifth, there is no sign of forced entry, which eliminates the possibility of a stranger entering the home to abduct Sebastian. Stranger abductions constitute a tiny fraction of missing child cases, and nearly all include physical or digital traces: door tampering, window disturbance, missing objects, audio cues, vehicle activity, or surveillance anomalies. None were present here. The house showed no signs of intrusion, and nothing in the environment indicates the involvement of an external perpetrator. The sixth impossibility is the detail that the door was locked. According to Katie and Chris, the front door was locked when Sebastian was discovered missing. This presents an impossible situation. If he walked out, he would have had to unlock the door, exit, and then lock it behind him without leaving noise, scent, prints, or other evidence. No forensic model supports this. A locked door strongly suggests that the exit did not occur voluntarily or did not occur at all. Seventh, no personal items were taken: no flashlight, no snack, no jacket, no additional clothing. Autistic individuals who leave home unexpectedly often bring objects associated with comfort, sensory regulation, or predictable patterns. Wandering behavior typically includes at least one transitional object. In this scenario, nothing was missing. Even the flashlight video that generated speculation was later dismissed by the family, not by law enforcement, as irrelevant. Eighth,
In my opinion, if there was footprints, it would have either been from KK or CP or both, or one of KK's friends.
Sebastian had a well-documented aversion to insects, dirt, and walking barefoot, rooted in sensory processing difficulties. Leaving the house in the dark, barefoot, into a cold environment with unpredictable terrain directly contradicts his known behavioral profile. Forensic child psychology relies on pattern analysis, and this pattern does not align with any form of voluntary exit. Ninth, there was no audible sound associated with a door opening, closing, or movement through the home. Katie reported hearing no noise during the critical hours. Despite the home's acoustics, and despite being awake at various points, A barefoot teenager navigating space at night without triggering sound inconsistencies would require nearly impossible stealth, especially when sensory discomfort typically increases movement noise, not decreases it. 10th, drone searches, horseback units, and dive teams found no trace of Sebastian in the surrounding miles. These platforms detect heat signatures, disturbed soil, displaced vegetation, and anomalies in water bodies. None were found. The absence of physical evidence in extended-range searches further weakens the hypothesis of voluntary wandering. 11th, no witnesses reported seeing anyone matching Sebastian's description. In the early days of a missing child case, public alert systems trigger heightened awareness. Neighbors, commuters, and local residents tend to report even ambiguous sightings. Here, there were none. A barefoot, autistic child traveling alone through a residential area at night would have drawn immediate attention. Finally, the 12th impossibility: every forensic point contradicts a self-directed action. There is no pathway, literal or behavioral, that supports the idea of Sebastian independently leaving the house. When all evidence points toward non-movement, and all behavioral indicators point toward non-departure, the conclusion is not that a voluntary exit occurred undetected. It is that a voluntary exit did not occur. These 12 impossibilities do not represent ambiguous or debatable conditions. They represent a structural collapse of the runaway model. When the physical world fails to record a movement, the burden of proof shifts from "he walked away" to "show how walking away was possible." In this case, that burden cannot be met. And when forensic silence is paired with narrative contradictions, slips of the tongue, and behavioral red flags from the adults in the home, the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers becomes not a mystery of wandering, but a case whose explanation lies inside the house, not outside it. A disappearance narrative stands or falls on the integrity of its timeline. In cases involving minors, especially those with developmental disabilities, the timeline is the backbone of all investigative trajectories. When the sequence of events is consistent, grounded, and supported by independent data, investigators can reconstruct movements, identify decision points, and uncover anomalies. But when the timeline fractures under scrutiny, when it shifts, contradicts itself, and demands suspension of physical reality, it becomes the clearest indicator that the truth is not being recounted, but constructed. The timeline of the night Sebastian Rogers vanished does not merely fracture, it collapses entirely. The collapse begins with Katie's claim that she conducted a full house search in 1 minute. According to her, she checked Sebastian's room, ran through the house, looked through doors and windows, shouted his name, called Chris, and then promptly got into the car to begin driving the neighborhood, all within 60 seconds. This description...
First off, you don't go running through the house to find a missing child. You should walk slowly and look everywhere, in small spaces, in small corners, in places like in cupboards or anything. Because allegedly, he apparently liked going and hiding in small places. So, KK, why did it take only 3 minutes? Why was it only 3 minutes for you to try to find him? It takes longer than that. And especially with driving with your windows up, that's not how you find a missing child. You're supposed to either have your windows down, calling out the person's name, and either that or putting shoes on, leaving your house, locking the doors, and going searching for him. What you did is not searching.
Is physically impossible. Even if a parent were sprinting in a panic, the mechanical steps involved assessing a room, scanning multiple entry points, calling out repeatedly, initiating a phone call, and making the decision to leave the house cannot occur in the time frame she asserts. Forensic interviewers immediately challenge timelines that compress complex actions into unrealistically short intervals, because such compression indicates that the speaker, is reconstructing events retrospectively, not recounting them from memory. Chris's contribution to the timeline introduces the second major collapse. Despite being out of town during the night in question, he repeatedly and confidently fixes the disappearance window as 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. This certitude is inconsistent with the fact that he had no direct sensory access to the home during that period. A parent can estimate a time frame based on when a child was last seen, but Chris presents his version as though he
Exactly.
personally observed the house during those hours. In doing so, he demonstrates what forensic analysts refer to as assumed omniscience, a behavioral marker often present when a speaker is trying to control the investigative narrative rather than share factual knowledge. His timeline is not based on observation. It is imposed. The third crack in the timeline comes from the 3-hour phone call between Katie and Chris on the night of the disappearance. This call is critical because it establishes continuity, proximity, and awareness between them. Yet Katie completely forgets to mention it until Chris inserts the detail. The inconsistency between her amnesia and his precision is telling. A 3-hour phone call is not the kind of detail a distressed parent simply forgets, but it is the kind of detail a secondary narrator might omit when the timeline is not derived from memory but from pressure. Chris, recognizing its importance, restores it to the narrative. In forensic analysis, when one partner forgets and the other remembers, with unusual exactness, it indicates that the timeline originates with the latter. Katie's omission is not a gap in grief, it is a gap in rehearsal. Next comes the auditory anomaly, the 10 p.m. sound. In early accounts, Katie mentions hearing a noise near Sebastian's room around that time. Later, this detail disappears entirely. In some narratives, the noise is minimized, in others, it is absent, in still others, it is shifted to a different point in the evening. Changes in sensory details, especially those that could anchor the moment an internal event occurred, are major red flags. A stable, truthful timeline preserves sensory cues. An unstable or manufactured timeline obscures or erases them. The oscillation around this auditory detail suggests that it conflicts with the preferred disappearance window and was therefore gradually phased out. Another timeline-destroying element is the locked door. According to Katie and Chris, the door was locked when Sebastian was discovered missing. For the runaway model to be viable, Sebastian would have had to unlock the door, leave the house barefoot in complete silence, then somehow lock the door behind him. This scenario contradicts both forensic logic and physical possibility. A locked door is incompatible with voluntary departure. It indicates that either he did not leave, or he could not have left by himself. When doors, windows, and access points do not reflect outward movement, the timeline pointing outward becomes structurally unsupportable. The absence of camera data compounds the timeline's failure.
Pause there for a minute. For those in the bushes, if you guys can hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and also get my channel out into the algorithm. And also, I'm going to drop my PayPal link in the chat if anyone would like to donate. That would be very much appreciated, but it's never expected. Again, I'm going to drop my PayPal link in the chat. And then we will finish up the rest of the video.
In a modern neighborhood with multiple residences and doorbell systems, the movement of a single pedestrian, especially a barefoot autistic teenager, should have triggered at least one recording. Yet the timeline provides no corresponding external visual cue. Without camera hits, there is no point at which Sebastian can be reliably placed outside the home. A disappearance timeline that requires movement, but leaves no movement trace, contradicts standard forensic patterns of uncontrolled exits. Equally important is the absence of missing belongings. No jacket, no shoes, no snack, no sensory object, no flashlight, nothing was taken from the home. Runaway or wandering events among autistic individuals typically involve predictable preparation behaviors, even if minimal, grabbing a favorite object, sensory tool, or item of comfort. The lack of missing items directly undermines the possibility of an autonomous exit. The timeline demands movement, but the behavior profile demands stasis. When all these contradictions are laid side by side, the timeline becomes more than unstable, it becomes incoherent. Every point that should anchor the sequence of events instead destabilizes it. Katie's 1-minute search is impossible. Chris's 6-hour disappearance window is unverifiable and overly confident. The forgotten phone call undermines narrator consistency. The shifting sound detail erodes sensory reliability. The locked door defies mechanics. The absence of cameras removes the external pathway. The lack of missing items erases intentionality. Collectively, these fractures leave investigators with one unavoidable conclusion. The timeline as presented cannot coexist with any scenario in which Sebastian left the home on his own. The only timeline that remains compatible with the forensic evidence is one in which the critical event occurred inside the house, not outside it. Such a timeline does not require footprints, camera footage, missing items, or scent trails. It does not require the door to be unlocked or a noise to be heard. It does not rely on Sebastian making an improbable barefoot expedition into the dark. It aligns with the locked door, the static belongings, the lack of environmental disturbance, and the absence of external sensory data. When the timeline collapses under its own contradictions, investigators are forced to rebuild it from the ground up, not from what was said, but from what the evidence allows. And in this case, the evidence allows only one direction inward. In cases where physical evidence is limited or contradictory, investigators often turn to linguistic forensics, the study of how people speak, what they omit, what they correct, and what they presuppose without realizing it. Words are not neutral. They expose knowledge, concealment, emotional distance, and cognitive strain. In the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers, the linguistic patterns of both Katie and Chris contain signals that cannot be dismissed as harmless phrasing or emotional distress. They reveal an underlying tension, two people attempting to uphold a version of events that does not align with their internal knowledge. Katie's language is the most revealing, because she is the least skilled at controlling it. Her slips are not strategic, they occur when emotional strain overwhelms cognitive monitoring. The clearest example is her statement, "He walked out that door." This is not an innocent assumption. It is a presupposition, a linguistic structure that assumes a fact without establishing it. For this statement to be true, Sebastian must have physically walked out the door. Yet all forensic evidence contradicts this. No footprints, no scent trail, no missing shoes, no camera footage, no disturbed entry points. A person operating from genuine uncertainty would say, "I don't know where he went," or "I don't know what happened." A person who has internalized a constructed narrative or has been told what to believe says, "I don't know why he walked out." Her phrasing betrays belief in an event that the data disproves, an indicator of implanted or shared narrative rather than first-hand knowledge. Another revealing linguistic pattern emerges in Katie's use of past tense when referring to her son. In one of the most emotionally charged statements, she says, "He would have turned 16. Not, he will. Not, he's turning. But would have a conditional past tense construction associated with loss." The follow-up line, "He should be home for that," reinforces this anticipatory grief. Linguistic studies show that individuals grieving a loss they cannot yet articulate often drift into past tense structures, even when publicly maintaining hope. This phenomenon is especially common among family members who know more than they can say. In Katie's case, her tense drift conflicts sharply with her spoken claim that she believes Sebastian will return. Chris's linguistic patterns differ dramatically from Katie's. Where she slips emotionally, he distances himself categorically. One of the most conspicuous markers is his choice of labels. He frequently refers to Katie not by name or relational term, but as the mom. Similarly, he refers to Sebastian not as my stepson, not as Sebastian, but as the young man. This nominal distancing is a known forensic signal. It often appears in interviews with individuals seeking to emotionally detach themselves from responsibility, guilt, or relational ties. By referring to them as roles rather than people, Chris linguistically positions himself outside the emotional and relational framework of the family unit. A parent in crisis does not naturally use bureaucratic identifiers for loved ones. A person managing a narrative, however, often does. The distancing continues in another major linguistic pattern, self-clearing statements. Chris repeatedly asserts, "We've been vetted," and "We've been cleared." These statements perform two functions. First, they suggest investigative closure where none exists. Second, they attempt to preempt suspicion by invoking the authority of law enforcement. Yet no official agency, TBI, FBI, or local police has confirmed clearing any family members. The linguistic clash between his claim and official statements signals a deliberate attempt to shape public belief. In forensic linguistics, unsupported claims of exoneration are considered high-risk indicators, especially when paired with other distancing behaviors. Chris also demonstrates a consistent pattern of scenario elimination. When asked about possibilities, he dismisses anything that might hint at internal involvement. He rejects the relevance of video footage, denies auditory anomalies, and repeatedly asserts that the only logical explanation is that Sebastian just walked out. His linguistic rigidity, phrases like "no scenario except" or "it could only be," contrasts with typical parental uncertainty during crisis. Most parents speculate widely, exploring even improbable possibilities out of desperation. Chris does the opposite. He narrows possibilities to one, the only one that removes internal responsibility. Katie's correction leakage adds another layer of insight. In one interview, she says, "He went to bed," then quickly revises it to,
Hi, Grayson.
I told him to go to bed." Correction leakage occurs
Here,
when a speaker
Grayson.
modifies a statement mid-sentence to align with a constructed narrative. Spontaneous recall does not require such adjustments. Rehearsed or shared narratives do. Katie's correction suggests she is trying to maintain consistency with Chris's version of events, rather than recounting her own memory. Her avoidance cues further reinforce this pattern. When asked directly whether Sebastian was punished that night, she does not deny it. Instead, she escapes the question by repeating emotional generalities like, "It was a normal night." When asked about CPS involvement, she deflects. A truthful witness addresses difficult.
In my opinion, the reason why CPS didn't do anything about it is because they're probably believing everything that KK and CP are saying. Hi, Sharon.
Questions directly, even if painfully. An evasive witness aligns with a partner's protective narrative. Chris's over-detailed timestamps complete the linguistic picture. His claim that he and Katie were on the phone from 9:43 p.m. to nearly midnight displays an artificial precision. People recalling emotional events rarely anchor their memories to the minute. Hyper-precision signals construction, not recollection. Meanwhile, Katie forgot the call entirely until Chris supplied the detail. In forensic terms, this indicates that the timeline exists not in her memory but in his fabrication.
By the way, you guys, Grayson is my 10-year-old nephew. Don't be... I told him he could be in the chat.
Taken together, these linguistic markers, presuppositions, tense drift, distancing, self-clearing, correction leakage, avoidance, hyper-precision form a cohesive pattern known as indicative knowledge. This occurs when individuals reveal awareness of facts they cannot legitimately know, or attempt to suppress facts they cannot safely disclose. Indicative knowledge is not outward confession, but it is the linguistic shadow of concealed truth. In the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers, the words of Katie and Chris reveal more than their official statements ever could. Katie's slips show the fractures in a story she did not craft but attempts to maintain. Chris's language demonstrates emotional distance, narrative control, and defensive framing. Together, their words outline a story inconsistent with forensic evidence, yet tightly aligned with each other, an alignment too rehearsed to be accidental and too contradictory to be true.
Thank you, Sharon.
Forensic reconstruction begins with a simple principle. When multiple datasets converge on the same conclusion, and that conclusion contradicts the public narrative, the narrative, not the data, must be discarded. In the case of Sebastian Rogers, every
Okay,
independent
Grayson,
forensic
welcome back.
vector undermines the theory that he voluntarily left the house. When assessed collectively, the evidence does not point outward into the neighborhood or forested areas. It points inward toward an event that occurred inside the home, followed by narrative restructuring, rather than an actual missing person trajectory. This section reconstructs the forensic landscape piece by piece, demonstrating why only one scenario remains compatible with the factual record. The first dataset is the K9 tracking failure, a foundational element in missing child investigations. Specially trained scent dogs were deployed within hours of the report, yet every attempt to follow Sebastian's scent collapsed at or near the home. In Runaway...
And the link I just dropped is my Hangout channel, so if everyone can subscribe to that, that would be awesome. Also, I'm going to drop my nephew's link in the chat because he wants people to subscribe to him. So here's my nephew's link. Cool. Here is my nephew's link.
or wandering cases, especially involving individuals without footwear, K9 units almost always pick up an initial directional trail. Skin cells, sweat molecules, and heat differentials leave robust signatures. When a scent drops immediately at the point of origin, forensic standards interpret this as non-movement or transport. Dogs can be missiled, but they do not collectively fail simultaneously without environmental or structural interference. Here, there was no rain, no scent masking chemicals, no contamination. The simplest conclusion is also the most significant. Sebastian's scent did not travel beyond the immediate perimeter because Sebastian did not travel beyond the immediate perimeter. The second dataset concerns footprint evidence. Ground conditions around the home were highly conducive to trace impressions. Footprints from officers, searchers, and personnel were captured clearly. Yet no footprints matching Sebastian barefoot or otherwise were found exiting the house. This absence is more than a missing clue, it is a contradiction of physical reality. A barefoot autistic teenager navigating dark terrain cannot move silently and invisibly. The soil composition, humidity, and grass density all favored impression formation. For runaway behavior to be plausible, footprints must exist. Their absence is not simply a missing detail, it is a refutation of the underlying scenario. Third is the non-movement confirmation from neighborhood cameras. Law enforcement canvassed the area within hours of the report, collecting footage from doorbell cams, driveways, porches, and street-facing surveillance systems. Despite the sheer number of operational devices, Sebastian was not recorded on any camera, not even in the peripheral zones. Modern neighborhoods rarely allow a pedestrian to vanish without detection. The probability of escaping all cameras, while moving barefoot and presumably distressed, is statistically negligible. Camera silence, especially in combination with K9 failure and footprint absence, creates a triangulation of non-movement that no runaway model can explain. The behavioral profile of autistic wandering further undermines the external movement theory. Autistic individuals who wander typically do so toward familiar stimuli, water sources, lights, nearby roads, or repetitive sensory triggers. They do not walk into unpredictable terrain barefoot in darkness. They do not leave without transitional objects. They do not suppress self-stimulatory noises or stress responses that would leave auditory cues. Sebastian had known sensory sensitivities: fear of insects, fear of dirt, discomfort walking barefoot. These sensitivities increase, not decrease, at night. His profile is incompatible with sudden voluntary nighttime wandering, and his behavior prior to disappearance, calm, joking, engaged, offers no precipitating factor. Weather conditions on the night of the disappearance also play a role. Temperatures were low enough that barefoot travel would have produced rapid discomfort, hesitation, and slower movement. Cold ground increases the friction pattern of steps, making footprints more defined. It also increases the likelihood of seeking shelter or illumination quickly, both behaviors that produce movement signatures detectable by K9s or cameras. Weather does not erase evidence, it enhances certain types of traceability. The environmental conditions were not an obstacle to detection, they were an aid. Additional environmental data points compound the contradictions. The door was reportedly locked when Sebastian was discovered missing, a condition incompatible with a lone, barefoot exit. No shoes were missing, eliminating the possibility of a prepared departure. No flashlight was taken, yet wandering at night without light contradicts autistic safety-seeking behavior. No audio cues, door sounds, floor creaks, or movement were detected by Katie, who was awake at intervals. Given the acoustics of the home and the typical noise of nocturnal activity, total silence is improbable. Every sensory, mechanical, and behavioral factor required for a stealth departure is absent. Drone teams, horseback units, and dive teams deployed in the first 72 hours produced no trace, no heat signatures, no displaced vegetation, no overturned soil, no scent pockets near creeks or culverts. These tools are highly sensitive and rarely fail collectively, unless the subject was never present in the search zone. This is not failure of search methodology. It is the expected result when the search zone does not contain the missing individual. To make sense of the forensic landscape, 3 scenarios must be evaluated. Scenario A, voluntary departure, runaway. This scenario collapses under almost every data point. No footprints, no scent trail, no shoes missing, no camera confirmation, and no behavioral correlate.
Okay, sounds good,
Forensic
Linda.
score impossible. Scenario B, scene, accidental wandering s autistic elopement. This scenario requires sensory-driven movement that leaves physical evidence. Wandering barefoot in darkness contradicts Sebastian's sensory profile. K9 failure further eliminates this scenario. Forensic score impossible. Scenario C, internal event inside the home. This scenario is the only one that does not contradict any forensic data. It explains the lack of footprints. It explains the absence of scent trails. It explains the locked door. It explains the camera silence. It explains the missing noise cues. It aligns with linguistic leakage from both Katie and Chris. It removes the need for an impossible barefoot night exit. No fact conflicts with scenario C. All facts conflict with scenarios A and B. Therefore, from a forensic standpoint, the reconstruction leads to an unavoidable conclusion. Sebastian did not leave the house on his own. The physical world did not record his movement because there was no movement to record. And when physical evidence fails to support external scenarios, focus shifts inward to the environment, the timeline, and the individuals who controlled both. Forensic reconstruction does not claim motive or method. It simply eliminates the impossible. In this case, only one scenario withstands the weight of the evidence. An internal event occurred, followed by a narrative constructed to redirect the investigative lens outward, away from the house where the data suggests the truth resides.
Yes,
Final
Grayson,
stage
I
of a
did.
forensic analysis. Investigators look not for isolated clues, but for convergence, the point where independent vectors align so consistently that alternative explanations no longer hold structural integrity. In the case of Sebastian Rogers, 12 separate forensic vectors, 6 behavioral vectors, 3 linguistic vectors, and multiple environmental data sets all point in a single direction. The event did not occur outside the home. And when these vectors are overlaid, they do not converge on Sebastian, or a stranger, or a random environmental hazard. They converge inward toward the only scenario that accommodates every piece of evidence without contradiction. Yet, despite that convergence, public statements from law enforcement have remained studiously neutral. Understanding this discrepancy requires a full mapping of the vectors and the implications that follow. The first vector, footprints, points inward. No barefoot impressions, no partial heel strikes, no toe digs indicating hesitation, no scuff patterns. The ground outside the home was soft enough to capture any degree of pressure. Officers left prints, neighbors left prints, investigators left prints. Sebastian did not. The only scenario that fits is lack of outdoor movement. The second vector, K9 scent analysis, immediately collapses the premise of travel. Dogs fail when the subject never leaves the origin point.
The reason why the dogs couldn't pick up a scent was because there was no scent of Sebastian. So in my opinion, they carried him out and then brought him somewhere, or in my opinion, either buried him or put him in a home, or hid him very well somewhere, either at CP's parents' place.
They do not fail repeatedly across multiple dogs unless the scent is confined to an indoor environment or an object has been removed, rather than a person. In this case, the scent drop-off occurred so close to the home that the scenario of independent movement becomes forensically non-viable. The third vector, camera silence, reinforces non-movement. A teen exiting a residence barefoot, in the dark, navigating suburban terrain, should appear in at least one doorbell recording. The absence of camera hits across multiple systems is statistically incompatible with pedestrian travel. The only way for movement to occur yet remain unrecorded is if movement happened inside the home or was artificially concealed by a non-pedestrian method of removal. The fourth vector, the locked door, neutralizes runaway entirely. If Sebastian left voluntarily, he would not have locked the door behind him. If he left involuntarily, the door would not have been locked from the inside. When a locked position contradicts both voluntary exit and stranger intrusion, it points to an internal actor who controlled the door after an indoor event. The fifth vector, no missing belongings, contradicts both autism-driven wandering and emotionally driven runaway. No shoes, no jacket, no sensory object, no flashlight. Individuals with Sebastian's profile do not wander into the cold barefoot, without tools, without comfort items, and without light.
If you can, sub up to my nephew's channel. His link is in the chat. He just messaged me. He's only 10, so he wants to get more subscribers. He gets excited. So again, if you guys can sub up to him, he would really appreciate it.
The behavioral vector eliminates external trap.
The reason in my opinion, the reason why CP and KK passed the reason why CP and KK passed the polygraph test was because they may have probably searched up how to lie in order to pass the test. That's just my opinion.
The sixth vector, environmental conditions, strengthens the conclusion. The cold ground would have slowed him, increased discomfort, and produced auditory cues. Terrain would have produced footprints. Hard to navigate darkness would have forced reliance on familiar paths, increasing camera exposure. None occurred. The seventh vector, no auditory anomalies, contradicts claims of silent exit. A teenager moving through a house at night produces detectable sounds: door hinges, footsteps, floor vibrations, fabric friction, even breathing changes. Katie reports none. Chris denies any sound existed at all. Silence is forensically consistent with non-movement, not voluntary departure. The eighth vector, the scent.
Yeah, the shoes were definitely missing because how else would Seth notice if they weren't missing? In my opinion, Seth needs to be cleared.
And thermal vacuum in extended searches reinforces confinement. Drone thermals showed no heat signatures. Horseback units found no displacement indicators. Dive teams found no water disturbance patterns. Expanded grid searches showed no evidence of travel. These results do not indicate failed search operations, they indicate absence of a subject within the search radius. The ninth vector, behavioral mismatch, eliminates both runaway and wandering. Sebastian had sensory aversions that made barefoot, insect-exposed nighttime wandering nearly impossible. He had no recorded emotional event, no escalating conflict, no triggered meltdown. He had eaten, joked, and displayed baseline regulation.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Behavioral vectors contradict external departure. The 10th vector linguistic leakage undermines reported timelines. Katie's slips. He walked out that door. He would have turned 16. And Chris's distancing and self-clearing language suggest internal knowledge inconsistent with the theory they publicly endorse. Linguistic vectors do not point into the neighborhood, they point back into the home. The 11th vector timeline inconsistency destroys the outward-facing model. A 1-minute search, a forgotten 3-hour phone call, an externally imposed disappearance window, a disappearing 10 p.m. Noise. None of these elements align with an external event. Timelines that cannot support their own weight inevitably fail forensic examination. The 12th vector narrative control dynamics provides the final link. Chris commands narrative authority, while Katie displays correction leakage and deferral behavior. This pattern is not characteristic of a family reporting an externally caused disappearance. It is characteristic of an internal event dynamic in which one partner constructs and the other reinforces. When these 12 vectors are mapped, they form a star pattern of convergence. Each vector originates from a different data stream: environmental, forensic, linguistic, behavioral, sensory, but all converge in the same non-geographical location inside the home. The forensic landscape rules out runaway. The physical landscape rules out wandering. The behavioral landscape rules out spontaneous exit. The environmental landscape rules out unnoticed travel. And the linguistic landscape rules out ignorance of internal events. So then the investigation must evaluate the other canonical possibility, stranger abduction. But the data eliminates this direction with equal force. No forced entry, no opportunistic window, no vehicle noise, no camera record of unknown persons, no object displacement, no signatures of struggle, no scent from unknown individuals. Stranger abductions leave micro disturbances that forensic teams are trained to detect. None appeared here. Therefore, the only remaining scenario C, the internal event, is not merely plausible. It is the only scenario not contradicted by evidence. Scenario C does not require footprints, scent trails, unlocked doors, missing belongings, or camera detections. Scenario C fits every forensic void rather than fighting against it. Scenario C aligns with Katie's slips rather than contradicting them. Scenario C aligns with Chris's over-control rather than dismissing it. And most importantly, Scenario C aligns with the timeline collapse rather than requiring physically impossible movement. When all vectors point in a single direction and no alternative.
Grayson, in my opinion, I think the mom and the stepdad did it.
Survives critical examination, forensic convergence becomes inevitable. It does not declare guilt. It does not assign motive. It does not define the specific internal event, but it does rule out the narratives presented to the public. And this raises a final, necessary investigative question. If every independent dataset converges on the same person and the same location, why has there never been a public acknowledgement of this direction by law enforcement? This question does not accuse, it interrogates systemic silence. The absence of official direction may stem from insufficient physical evidence, ongoing investigative sensitivity, or legal thresholds that have not been met. But forensic convergence does not wait for formal statements. It functions independently, revealing patterns that remain clear even when no agency comments on them. The vectors speak loudly, even when institutions do not. They form a map that points inward, toward the house, toward the timeline, and toward the individuals who controlled both the narrative and the environment the night Sebastian disappeared. The convergence is not subtle. It is overwhelming. Part 9. The real warning behind this case. And the one question no one can ignore. The disappearance of Sebastian Rogers.
Yeah, Grayson, do you expect me to do all the talking? Yes, silly boy.
Is more than a missing person case. It is a study in how truth fractures under pressure, how narratives shift to fill gaps, and how evidence holds steady even when human explanations do not. When examined from every forensic, behavioral, and linguistic angle, the case teaches a set of hard, but necessary lessons for investigators, for families following the case, and for the public that continues to search for answers. One of the clearest lessons is this: evidence speaks even when people don't. From the first hours of the investigation, the physical environment made a statement. No footprints, no scent trail, no missing shoes, no camera detections, no noise of a door opening, no belongings
Yes,
taken.
I do.
Each piece alone weakens the runaway theory, but together they eliminate it. Physical evidence is indifferent to narrative convenience. It does not adjust itself to match a story. It stands unbending, revealing what is possible and what is not. In this case, the physical world allows only one conclusion: Sebastian did not walk away from that house on his own. Another lesson is the importance of linguistic leakage, the unconscious slips of language that reveal internal knowledge. Katie's past tense references to Sebastian, her correction leaks, her repeating of details she should not know, and her presupposed statement, why he walked out that door, all point toward narrative strain. People who truly do not know what happened do not speak as though they do. The same leakage appears in Chris's distancing language, over-precision, and self-clearing statements. These linguistic behaviors matter because they introduce information that contradicts the public narrative while aligning with the forensic evidence of non-movement. The case also highlights the lesson that behavioral dynamics can undermine narrative credibility. Katie's deference to Chris, her avoidance of critical questions, and her reliance on him to supply key details show a pattern often seen in cases involving narrative control. One person constructs the story, the other sustains it. Investigators must look beyond what is said and analyze how it is said, when it is corrected, and who corrects whom. Behavioral patterns often reveal the power distribution within a household, and that distribution, in turn, shapes the reliability of statements. Another crucial lesson is the danger of allowing emotional tone to over.
Oh yeah, Amy. My nephew's a good little kid. He's cool. He's 10, so Grayson, just behave, okay?
Overshadow factual content. Katie's gentle delivery, repeated assurances of a normal night, and emotional fragility can pull listeners into a sympathetic frame of mind. But emotional sincerity does not guarantee factual accuracy. In contrast, Chris's confident, assertive tone creates an illusion of control and authority. Yet confidence does not equal truth. The case teaches that investigators and the public must separate empathy from evidence. A soft voice can hide hard facts. A strong voice can conceal weak foundations. The timeline issues teach another equally important lesson. When the timeline collapses, the story collapses with it. The 1-minute search, the forgotten 3-hour phone call, the shifting 10 p.m. sound, the locked door, the absence of a camera trail, none of these inconsistencies can be reconciled with the idea of a voluntary
Thank you,
exit.
Linda.
Time is the skeleton of any narrative. When the skeleton breaks, the entire account becomes unsustainable.
Okay, Grayson.
Together,
Sounds good.
these lessons point toward a larger and more uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the explanation presented to the public is not simply incomplete, it is incompatible with the evidence. And when that happens, it is the responsibility of everyone watching to pay attention, to question, and to demand clarity. But the case of Sebastian Rogers teaches us something else too, a lesson about community. In missing child cases, public awareness is not just helpful, it is necessary. Information surfaces, not only from professionals but from neighbors, distant witnesses, people who remembered a detail weeks later, individuals who heard something in passing, or those who saw behavior that didn't make sense until much later. Cases shift when someone chooses to share something small that later becomes significant. That is why this investigation cannot exist in isolation. It must stay alive through engagement, discussion, and the collective intelligence of those following the case. If we want truth, we must be willing to ask for it. If you know something, no matter how small, say it. If you noticed something unusual near the Proudfoot home, say it. If you heard something on the night of February 24th, say it. If you saw a vehicle, a light, a movement, a person acting strangely, say it. If you have doubts, questions, or insights, share them. Even a single comment, a fragment of memory, or a recently recalled detail can become the missing piece that shifts an entire case. Many breakthroughs in unresolved disappearances have come from ordinary people who finally spoke up, sometimes months or years later. And for those who do not have direct information, your role is still essential. By interacting, discussing, and keeping the case visible, you ensure that Sebastian is not forgotten, and that the pressure to uncover the truth does not fade. Public engagement is not noise, it is momentum. It signals that people are watching, caring, and refusing to let an incomplete story settle as final. So as you finish this video, take a moment to reflect on these questions. What stands out to you? What feels inconsistent? What detail caught your attention? And what do you think really happened inside that house? Your insight matters. Your voice matters. If you have information, share it. If you have questions, ask them. If you have thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Together, we keep the case alive. Together, we push for truth. And together, we make sure that someone, somewhere, finally answers the question that still haunts this investigation. Where is Sebastian?
Not yet. Okay, so we're done that video. Grayson, do you want to come up on my panel? I'll let you up.
The mighty cheese perch is here too.
Here, Grayson. There's the link. Click it and come up. Jacob, turn your camera on.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, buddy.
Hi, Uncle.
You guys, that is Grayson.
It's not bad. Now, if
Yeah.
You're in the show, Grayson. Are you happy
Jacob.
about that?
Hey, buddy.
It's also not super sweet, which I appreciate. I'm honestly kind of.
I'm at Caitlin's house right now.
Now let's try this sauce.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it already started melting. I'm just noticing this now.
Everybody go subscribe to me.
Yes, you guys, subscribe to Grayson. He is really good with this channel, actually. Here, I'll drop Grayson's link in the chat again.
But I swallowed it anyways. The sauce on itself honestly isn't bad. Now it's time to try their tabby cake. The outside of this is covered in chocolate, and the inside should be vanilla cake.
Uncle, in that case, I think it's just the mom.
I think it's both the stepdad and the mom.
Because I sent you a video and it's like at the restaurant, she was like making a face and then Sebastian's arm went down like in like I don't know. It's like I sent you a
Oh,
video.
thank you, Dan.
You can
Grayson,
watch it. Yeah?
Dan in the chat, he
Yeah?
subscribed to you.
Thank you. Okay. Are you ending stream soon, Uncle?
Pardon?
Are you ending stream soon or no?
This is my streams.
Yeah, but are you ending it soon?
Not quite yet.
Oh, okay. Are you gonna watch more videos about Sebastian?
Well, I'm going to do my next stream on Monday.
Oh, so you're not gonna watch any more videos today?
No.
Oh. So what are you gonna do for now?
Probably just hang out.
Like a hangout stream?
No, not a hangout stream. Just call Jacob after.
Hey.
Yeah. Wait, if I leave the link, will it still show my face?
What do you mean?
Like if I go to YouTube, will it still show my face?
I think. Try it.
Can you see my face?
No.
No.
Okay. I'm just checking. Yeah, I got 23. There you go.
Good job.
Yeah. I want 50 to go live.
Yeah.
That's my goal. My other channel got to 37, but I can't post on it.
Don't worry, you'll get there.
Yeah. Time and effort. Oh, wait. Let me turn on my camera quick so I can do this. Bam. 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 Okay, I'm back.
That's good.
What?
I said that's good.
Yeah. How many people are still in the stream, Uncle?
There's 6 watching.
Nice.
How big's your place you're in, Dad? The same size. Oh, so it's bigger than your place. Yeah, and then like a big, you got no room there. 25 at a place like this, I'm sure you can build a nice big
What time on Monday are you gonna go live?
one. And then
Probably in the evening.
Like before school ends?
After school. After you're done school.
You think I could join in?
Yeah.
Like in this, like link thing?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Jacob joins every day with me.
Nice. So this is kind of like you got like it's like he's kind of like a step owner. You know what I mean?
A step owner. Yeah.
I don't know how to say it.
Linda, they're okay. They're still in hospital.
So the babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do they know about that?
Because I just said I became an uncle again.
Oh, that's true. Do they know the names yet or no?
No.
What's it called? Okay, you know how you can mod people and stuff?
Yeah.
The people that aren't modded, like, are those just randoms?
Yeah.
Oh, so like the people that are modded, you actually know?
No.
You just mod.
Thank
like,
you, Linda.
Do you know Dan?
Just from other channels. I do.
Oh. So you've never met them in real life?
No.
Oh. You've been live for an hour and 33 minutes?
Yep.
Jacob, who do you think the criminal is?
Definitely the KK and those parents that are sus.
Hello, Grandma.
Hello.
Do you want to see someone who's on my channel right now? Who's on my stream with me? There's 2.
Who's on your stream?
Just wait. There's Curly Joe.
Oh yeah, I think I know him.
And
Hi,
there's
Grandma.
Jacob.
Do I know you, Curly Joe?
Grayson.
Yeah.
Nana's
so.
asking if she knows you, Curly Joe.
I can hear.
Daniel, I have to go. I lost my phone. I gotta go find it.
Okay, bye, Grandma.
Bye. Bye, Curly Joe. Bye, Jacob.
Bye.
Wait, Uncle, how did she lose her phone if she answered the call?
Probably the house phone.
No, but you could see her.
No, she probably lost the house phone.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That doesn't even make sense. If she lost her phone, how would she answer? Uncle, why do you think it's like the stepdad and the mom? Like, why do you think it's the stepdad?
Huh?
Why do you think it's like the both of the parents? Why do you only think it's the mom?
I think it's both the step-parent. I think it's both the parents, the stepdad and the mom, because
But why do you think it's the stepdad?
they're hiding a lot of. They're not telling the full truth. I don't think.
That's a good point.
Wait, and Grayson, how did you find this video?
On YouTube.
Good job.
Yeah, I searched it up.
Well, you're smart.
Because if you watch it all, they were at the dinner table, and when his mom got mad at him, he
Grayson.
kind of, yeah.
CJ Canada in the group says Grayson's going to make a great detective one day.
Who?
CJ Canada in the chat
Thank you.
says you are going to make a great detective one day.
Yeah. Well, when the stream ends, I'm gonna go look for more like information, and then I'll send it to you. And next stream, you could like
Ooh.
talk about it
Okay,
because I kind of like helping.
that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. This is my first live that I've ever been on.
Yeah, well, besides Lollies, remember me and you?
Yeah, that stream I was on, but not for long. But Uncle, why do you think it's like? Who do you think did more of the, like, scene?
I think there is other people involved, but we don't know who. All we can do is
Wait.
have our opinions, share our opinions and whatnot.
And he's still not found, right?
Nope, still not found.
How long has it been?
Been missing over 2 years.
Oh. And y'all they still haven't figured it out?
Nope.
Who are their main suspects right now?
Oh gosh, there's so many people.
Like randoms or like parents or uncles, aunties?
Oh yeah, CJ, for sure. Grayson is a smart little boy.
My teacher says different.
CJ says a very observant young man catches the discrepancies visually and verbally. That's good.
Yeah. Wait, can they see my face on the stream?
Yep, they can.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. Okay. I'm gonna try to hop on every stream, Uncle, but sometimes I might not be able to.
That's okay. See? You're on the screen.
Okay. Uncle, I had a football game today, see?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, he's in football.
Yeah. I threw a bunch of good touchdowns today.
Grayson CJ Canada in chat is saying Their sister was a detective for 6 years.
Like a real detective? Oh, did discover any cases?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's just the mom, and then I feel like there's more people involved, but I don't think it's the stepdad. Wait, I'm gonna text you, okay? Uncle?
Oh, wow. CJ, that's where I live.
Okay, I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
I'm just gonna turn on my camera so I can go look for more videos that I can send to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
First, they said that they can put a bench on their front lawn, and you have to look after the bench, but anybody
Hi, Kaylin. I'm on my way.
Oh, you mean outside of town? Yeah. So I agree. A small rural place. Well, it's all- yeah. Now it's- Well, if I recall, it wasn't too far past our house. The 51st stop was a gravel road.
Oh, yeah, CJ Canada, it is. The new Valley Line train here, gosh, it is crazy.
Okay, I'm back.
Grayson, you have 23 subscribers already.
I do?
Yeah, go look.
Yay!
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Yeah. Uncle, what will you do when you get 1,000 subscribers?
I don't know. I have to get to 500 first so I can set up super chats and stuff.
Oh, so you can't have super chats yet?
No, not yet.
That's why I put your PayPal?
Oh, Grayson,
Thank
CJ Canada subscribed to you.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the chat right now. Thank you, CJ. Do you know CJ or no?
No,
You've never saw him in your chat before?
they come in my chat.
Oh. Wait. Let me go subscribe to him. CJ, I subscribed to you, by the way. Uncle CJ has 309 subscribers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I subscribed to you. Uncle, I'm outside right now.
Nice.
I'm not going to leak my information to you. Wait.
Let's see how many subscribers I have now.
205, I think. No, yeah, 205.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I am going to end out my stream for today. Be on the lookout for Monday. And until next time, everyone, peace.
Thank you for the live.
You're welcome, Jacob.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.